Welcome to the Dinosaur Review for Kids podcast, a show all about reviewing dinosaurs on a scale of 1 to 10 fossils before only the elite terrible lizards make it into the prehistoric cage match. This program is presented by the Stomp Tromp Roar Company and can be heard within all the rock layers across the planet. Grab your dinosaurs and your official scorecard because it's now time to dig for dinosaurs. Here's your Mesozoic host, Dinosaur Ranger Anthony.
Cowabunga, my junior paleontologist. Are you ready for the ooze? Oh, I'm sorry. I meant, are you ready for our next review? Well, I hope so because I have a special episode planned for you guys all today. But before we head down into the sewers, remember this is your host and your crime-fighting paleontologist, Dinosaur Ranger Anthony. And welcome back to the Dinosaur Review for Kids podcast, Turtle Style. But hey, since I brought it up, I better let you guys know about this stuff called ooze, so listen closely. Ooze is a chemical that turned 4 tiny, hard-shell creatures into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, baby! The Turtles first appeared in a comic book in the year 1983, and that was exactly 40 years ago. And since then, they have appeared in a countless number of movies, TV shows, video games, toys, and so much more. I even had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle sleeping bag when I was a kid, and I love sleeping with it every night. And I also had some Ninja Turtle video games, some clothes, a sweatshirt that I loved when I was a kid, and definitely some toys and action figures. Now, these so-called Ninja Turtles were created by a mutant rat named Splinter, and he also happened to be the Turtles' adoptive father and their ninjutsu trainer. And I gotta admit, he's also one of my favorite characters in the show. Now, each turtle wears a different colored headband and sports a different style of ninja weapon. The turtles are also named after Italian Renaissance artists. So we have Leonardo in blue, Michelangelo in orange, Donatello in purple, and Raphael in red, who I always liked the best sporting the red bandana. He has those size, and I think he looked like a Husker because he was wearing Husker Cornhusker red. Throw the bones, Raphael! Now you guys, our turtles, they love to fight crime. They live down in the sewers of New York City, and they fought all kinds of crime. And no, not against those New York Jets, who sadly lost by only 3 points last night to those Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions. It was almost a comeback for the ages, but sadly, the Jets have dropped to 1-3 on the season. Now, the Turtles' main supervillain is named Shredder, and he has a gang of evil street fighting ninjas. The Turtles also rely on help from April O'Neil, a local news reporter. Well, that's enough about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for now. Let's go down into the sewers of the Dinosaur Review for Kids podcast and enjoy some pizza pie. Let's go, dudes. Now here's our sneak peek for today's creature review. Although today's prehistoric animal is technically classified as a turtle, it didn't have a true turtle-like hard shell. This creature had more of a leatherback exoskeleton that covered its ribs. This exoskeleton is called a carapace, and it's divided into sections that we also like to call plates that covered its back, giving it somewhat of a shell-like appearance. So that's a little bit of a sneak peek for today's review. Now let's head over to the Dino Bus. Now I don't have any huge updates. Currently I'm working on finding some commercial auto insurance for the Dino Bus, and believe me, it's been a Brachiosaurus-sized undertaking. If I could send a KPG extinction-sized asteroid to all the insurance companies that have denied me or told me there was no market for a traveling museum, then you guys, the world would have been destroyed like 12 times by that huge asteroid. But anyways, the fight must continue, and I'm not down for the count quite yet. We have a couple good leads going into this week. Now, you guys, a few shout outs before our review today. Shout out to Bethany First Steps Preschool. We went there a couple weeks ago. The kids were so polite. So many thank yous. I have to say it was probably one of the most polite child cares I've been to all year. So many thank yous and so many compliments as all the kids were walking back to their classrooms. Shout out, we went to a homeschool career fair over at the Wildwood Church. It was my very first career fair. I was the dinosaur expert and entrepreneur. I gotta tell the kids all how I started my company, Stomp Chomp Roar, and how I have so much fun each and every day teaching kids all about dinosaurs. Shout out to Kip with Wildlife Encounters. That's a company here in Omaha, Nebraska, where they kind of do similar to me, where I go to daycare, schools, libraries, but instead of dinosaurs, they bring live animals, like a little kangaroo. They have birds, they have crocodiles or caimans, armadillos, all kinds of kind of exotic animals that they take straight into the classroom to show the kids. And I had coffee with Kip, their owner, and we just had so much fun talking about our businesses together and maybe how we can work together in the future. Now, shout out to Little Stars CDC in Lincoln. We went to Lincoln last Wednesday, visited that childcare, and the kids were wonderful. I had so much fun teaching them all about dinosaurs, fossils, and prehistoric life. And then I went and visited my grandma. We went to Brewski's for lunch. My grandma Melinda lives out in Lincoln, and she's one of the ones that introduced me to Moral Hall, my childhood museum. We just had so much fun going out to lunch together. So shout out to my grandma as well. Now, also a shout out to Love and Learn Christian Childcare and Preschool. We went there at the end of last week, had a dynamite time feeding paleo all kinds of fish, feeling all sorts of fossils, and learning all about prehistoric life. So shout out to all those friends that we visited and talked to over the last couple weeks. Now, you guys, let's grab our katanas or your nunchucks or your bow staff or even your sais, because it's time to start fighting crime and reviewing our next prehistoric creature. Let's go, dudes! It's time, my junior paleo ninjas! Let's crawl out of the sewers and start fighting crime! Or at least, start reviewing our next prehistoric genus. Now, today we're talking about the Archelon. The Archelon. And this name means the ruler turtle. It's the ruler turtle, and I've also read the early turtle. So today we're not talking about a dinosaur, but this creature did live with the dinosaurs back during that Mesozoic era. Now, what is the order? What kind of creature is this? It's a turtle, we know, but they are reptiles. So our Archelon is a reptile, which is a cold-blooded, dry, scaly skin creature that laid eggs. And then they fall into the suborder, the Testudines. The Testudines. And these are the shelled creatures like turtles and tortoises. Before it falls into the family, the Cryptodyra. And those are the hidden neck turtles rather than the turtles that have more of a longer neck that comes out of the shell. So our Archelon is a reptile, a Testudines, and then a Cryptodyra. Now, how big was this creature? What was the length, the height, and the weight of our prehistoric sea turtle, our ruler turtle? The Archelon is up to 15 feet long, or 4.5 meters, from its snout all the way back to its tail. Then it's up to 16 feet wide, or 4.8 meters, from one side to the other. So from one flipper all the way over to the other flipper, and it can weigh 5,000 pounds, or 2.5 tons. This turtle is the size of a small car, like maybe a Volkswagen Bug, slug bug. Now, this is the largest genus of turtle to ever live on Earth, or at least the one so far where we found their fossilized evidence. Now, when we look at a leatherback turtle that lives today, on average, they're about 4 to 6 feet long. The biggest biggest one up to 10 feet long. But like I said, on average only 4 to 6, where our Archelon is 15 feet long. So this one is definitely the biggest sea turtle that we've ever found so far. The size of a small car, it's the Archelon. Now, how fast was the Archelon? This was really hard to kind of find how quick it was while it was swimming down there in the waters. So when I looked at leatherback turtles that live today, on average, they're going about maybe 6, 8, 10 miles per hour as they're swimming throughout the water, and they can even see maybe up to 22 miles per hour if maybe they're jetting away, trying to get away from danger. So about 6 to 22 miles per hour. They have 4 large flippers, you guys, and they're equipped for long journeys across the seas. And we'll talk a little bit about where our Archelon lived here in a little bit, but those 4 large flippers are definitely going to take them on all kinds of adventures. Now, what weapons or defense did this creature have? What characteristics does our Archelon have? Now, this one, as we can tell, it's a sea turtle, so let's talk about its shell first. It has a huge, flat, and wide shell. Now, the soft shell is somewhat of kind of like a leathery exoskeleton like we mentioned before in our sneak peek, and that's called a carapace. So their leathery exoskeleton that makes up their soft shell is called a carapace. Now, this shell was covered in something we call a sheath, and that is protecting the shell. We see that in birds. They have that keratin sort of sheath on their feathers, helping protect them. We see it on our Archelon as well. Now, they have a row of small ridges, you guys, 1 to 2 inches in height that go down kind of like their spine, down their shell. So it was somewhat of a spike, only an inch or 2 high, like I mentioned, that's going down their shell, down that carapace. Maybe a little bit of protection, probably not, or maybe just a little bit of display, or maybe it helped them as they're swimming down in the water. So again, a huge, flat, wide shell that we call a carapace, and it's more of like a leathery exoskeleton than a hard shell. Now, that carapace is made up of plates. So on each side of their back or their shell, they have about 8 plates on each side that divide up the shell. And those are what we call plates. And they're kind of going in between the ribs of the Archelon. So those ribs on their back that are kind of making up their shell, it's covered in that exoskeleton, that carapace, and it has 8 of those plates that are kind of helping protect their backs, you guys. Now, their bellies, their thick underside is somewhat covered in a star-shaped plastron, and this plastron is going to help protect their underside from any attacks that are coming down from underneath. So their shell, you guys, that carapace and that plastron is helping protect their bodies. Now, their skull, they have a narrow 39-inch skull and a hooked beak with powerful jaws. Their nostrils are on top of their head, you guys, and they have 16 to a 20-foot flipper wingspan. So I read that the biggest one could be up to 20 feet in length for that flipper wingspan. Not wingspan, but a flipper span as they're swimming down there in the waters. They have paddle-like legs, you guys, that are helping them swim throughout the water, making them very water dynamic as they're swimming all throughout the seas. Under those flippers, they have 5-fingered bones inside. So just like how we have 5 fingers. And they have a short tail back there in the back. So again, they have that shell, they have a narrow 39-inch skull in the front with sort of that beak on it, so it can maybe crush all kinds of things, powerful jaws for eating jellyfish, mollusks, cephalopods, and even fish. It's probably eating about anything it can grab its beak onto. Now, how long do these creatures live? I've seen estimates around 100 years old for our Archelon, and how long could they be underwater without coming up for air? So typically I read about 2 to 4 minutes they can be down underwater, you guys, as they're swimming, they're holding their breath, but then I also read up to 2 hours if they're more in like a resting state. They're kind of sleeping as they're gliding throughout the waters. They can maybe hold their breaths for up to 2 hours. And that's for the leatherbacks that we see today. You can imagine our Archelon, it might have been even able to hold its breath for even longer. And that truly would have been wild. Now, where did this creature live, and how long did this genus live back during the Mesozoic era or the age of reptiles? So our Archelon is coming in between 80 to 74 million years ago during that late Cretaceous period, and it lived in the Western Interior Seaway. That's an ocean, a seaway that cut straight through North America, from Canada through the United States down into Mexico. A waterway that went straight through North America, and that's where we find our Archelon, you guys. That's where they would have been living long ago. Now, they lived in the mid to upper surface section, so there's an abundance of food. They're able to keep themselves fed. Now, it lived with the evil Mosasaurus, sort of like Shredder. Our Mosasaurus, the Plesiosaurus, those are the evil fighters back during the Mesozoic era, and our Archelon is our crime fighter. So who would have won, the Archelon or Shredder, the Mosasaurus? I hope the Archelon can at least get away, because if the Mosasaurus grabs it with those jaws, it might be done for, and that would just sort of been too sad. Now, our Archelon went extinct due to the shrinking seaways. The Western Interior Seaway began shrinking and shrinking. We had a cooling climate and all kinds of egg predators, because our Archelon would have only ventured onto land to lay all kinds of eggs so that they can keep the species, the genus, going on and on and on throughout the Mesozoic era. Now, it was found back in 1895 in South Dakota, named in 1896 by George R. Wieland. And in 1992, they found the biggest Archelon, and they named it the Brigitta. The Brigitta. And that is a little bit about our Archelon. So you guys, a quick recap before we give our fossil score for our Archelon. It's a reptile, a Testudines, and a Cryptodyra, up to 15 feet long, up to 16 feet wide, 5,000 pounds, the size of a car, the largest turtle to live on Earth. 6 to 22 miles per hour, 4 large flippers, a huge flat and wide shell, a leathery exoskeleton that we call a carapace. It has somewhat of a sheath on it to protect it a little bit. Maybe a small ridge of spikes that went down their back, only 1 inch to 2 inches high. So very small. They have those 8 plates on each side that make up their somewhat of that carapace shell, you guys. They have a plastron star-shaped underside helping protect their bellies, a narrow 39-inch skull with hooked beak, powerful jaws, nostrils on top, maybe 20-foot flipper span as they're swimming throughout the waters, 5-fingered bones. Maybe they live to be 100 years old. Maybe they can be underwater for up to 2 hours, and they lived back during the late Cretaceous period with the Mosasaurus, evil Shredder. So you guys, what is going to be our fossil score for our Archelon sea turtle? It's so hard rating some of these other creatures that technically aren't dinosaurs within the dinosaur family, the dinosaur order. So at the end of the day, you guys, I thought it was going to be quite fair to give our Archelon sea turtle an 8.3! An 8.3 for our Archelon, our ruler turtle, the biggest sea turtle to ever live on Earth. The Archelon gets an 8.3 on the Dinosaur Review for Kids podcast. That was tubular, my junior paleo ninjas, but what do you think about that 8.3 score for the Archelon? I gotta admit, like I said, it's getting pretty tough scoring some of these non-dinosaurs among the real dinosaurs. And an 8.3 is also perfect for the Archelon, because if you remember, it's the same year the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles first appeared 40 years ago, back in 1983. So an 8.3 3 is for 1983. Anyways, you guys, I think this gigantic sea turtle, the Archelon, would have made up the best prehistoric crime-fighting ninja turtle. The true question is, what color would its headband be, or what weapon would it use? I don't know. How about a white headband and a mace? And a mace is that little weapon that has the spiky iron ball, and it's attached to a stick with a chain, and they can kind of spin it around. So heroes in a half shell, turtle power for our Archelon. And I even have a few other toys here in my science lab. Sadly, I have no Archelon toys, so I had to raid my kids' bath toys. So I have a few 3 little bath toys that are turtles right here, and I even have my oldest daughter Cecilia's. This was her nightlight when she was just a little girl. You could push the button and the turtle's shell would light up. And today, I even sported it with a red bandana so it could be a Ninja Turtle. Now, as you remember this season, after each review, I'm also doing short interviews with some of our Patreon club members. So let's go back down into the sewers and meet another amazing Junior Dinosaur Ranger, or should I say Mama Dinosaur Ranger. Now today I'm joined by someone extremely special. This dinosaur ranger helped me bring the love for dinosaurs into my life from a very young age during the 1990s. They introduced me to movies like The Land Before Time and Disney's Fantasia. This person even took me to Moral Hall a countless number of times when I was a kid. So let's all give a huge Archelon-sized hello to my wonderful mom, Gretchen. Hello, Mom. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited for our Patreon Club podcast interview. It's going to be so much fun. And I knew I had to choose you for today's interview over some of our other Junior Dinosaur Rangers, just because I know your favorite animal is a turtle. Why do you like the turtle so much?
I think it's because they have their home on their back. Everywhere they go, they have their home with them.
That's right. That's super cool. Now, let's switch it over into dinosaurs real quick. First things first, are you team herbivore or team carnivore?
I'm team herbivore.
That's right. Round of applause for team herbivores. Which one's your favorite?
A brontosaurus.
Very nice. The Brontosaurus, Apatosaurus, Brachiosaurus, all long-necked sauropods that lived back during the Mesozoic era. Why do you think you like the Brontosaurus, the long necks, the best?
It probably has something to do with The Land Before Time because I watched it so often with you.
Yeah.
That I just love that show. It's a great way to introduce dinosaurs to kids.
We got to get our tree stars like Littlefoot and the rest of the gang. It's been so awesome introducing like Reagan to The Land Before Time too. So it's super fun. Now, when we look a little bit about our dinosaurs, what's your favorite dinosaur memory?
Probably Moral Hall.
Yeah.
Taking all the kids down there to see all the dinosaurs.
Yeah, and Moral Hall, you guys, is my childhood museum. My mom, my grandma, like I said, took me there when I was a kid. They have a huge elephant hall, and it has the biggest Columbian mammoth ever found in the world that was found here in Nebraska. So even though we don't have dinosaurs, we have Archelons and our mammoths, because they would have found all kinds of sea turtles here in Nebraska. Because remember, we had the Western Interior Seaway that cut through the North America in the United States. Now, today I gave the Archelon an 8.3. Do you think that was a good score for this prehistoric sea turtle?
I think it should be higher because I love turtles.
Higher than the T-Rex?
Yeah, absolutely.
That would just be too wild. Now, when we talked about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which one's your favorite Ninja Turtle?
It would be Leonardo.
Oh, the blue one, just like your blue headband today.
Yes, absolutely.
We're supporting our Ninja Turtle gear. Super cool. And we know the Ninja Turtles loved pizza. Do you have a favorite pizza topping?
I do. Hamburger, black olive, and mushroom.
Ooh, nice. That sounds super good. What about pineapple? Do you like pineapple pizza?
Nah.
Oh, no! I'd like pineapple on my pizza. Well, thank you so much, Mom, for joining me for today, talking a little bit about dinosaurs, the Archelon, that prehistoric sea turtle. Did you have a good time on today's podcast?
Absolutely.
Awesome. And do you have any last roars or words for our dynamite listeners?
Turtles rock.
Awesome. That's totally wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining me for today, Mom. I can't wait to see you soon. We definitely need to schedule a trip over to Zen Coffee for another Stomp Chomp Roar business meeting. It would just be
Absolutely.
too awesome. That's going to be so much fun. And I love you bunches, and I'll talk to you later, alligator. Or should I say,
Love
talk to
you.
you later, Archelon. Awesome. See you later.
Bye.
Now, if you're interested in being interviewed on the Dinosaur Review for Kids podcast, then be sure to head over to my Patreon club and enroll as a junior dinosaur ranger. Just visit my website at stompchomproar.com and scroll down until you see the big red button that mentions the Patreon club. This coming Sunday, October 8th at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'll also be teaching a Patreon club virtual lesson all about mummies, pyramids, and the Spinosaurus. So be sure to sign up and take advantage of this VIP virtual lesson. Now let's get to our joke and our question for today. Why would the ninja Archelon make a terrible office worker? Why would the ninja Archelon make a terrible office worker? Do you guys know why the Archelon would make a terrible office worker? Well, you guys, it's because they would always destroy the shredder! And not the evil shredder, the paper shredder. The Archelon would always destroy it, and that's why it would be a terrible office worker. Now, you guys, let's go and do our question for today. Do you know the difference between a turtle and a tortoise? What's the difference between those two creatures? A turtle now, you guys, lives in the water and has a shell that's more for swimming. It's more aerodynamic or water dynamic as it's down in the water, while a tortoise lives on land and it can get a much taller shell. They also have a difference in their legs and their feet. A turtle's legs are more fin-like for swimming, while a tortoise has more of club-like legs as they're kind of walking across the land. But the bigger question, you guys, for today is which type would you want as a pet? Would you rather have one that lived in the water like a turtle, or would you like one that lived on land like a tortoise? I think I would rather have a tortoise because they lived on land. You could put them in a nice little environment, you guys, in their terrarium, and you could have a bigger shell. I love the shell on the tortoise. I wonder if you could paint their shell a little bit. That definitely would be super cool. They could be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle for sure. Now remember, my name is Dinosaur Ranger Anthony, your crime-fighting paleontologist for today's podcast all about the Archelon. And as always, keep digging for dinosaurs or Archelons. Cowabunga, dudes!